So just to recap, visibility of system status. This talks about how designs should always keep users informed about what is going on by giving feedback. So once a user performs an action or takes any step within a product, within an app, they expect a feedback, they expect a reaction from the product. This gives them an idea of where they are going, the current status, and ensuring that the feedback is timely is very, very essential. So that's that on visibility of system status. Then for the second, usability heuristic, we have match between system and the real world. So that your design should actually imitate the real world, meaning that you should use language that the user is familiar with, use patterns that the user is familiar with, use concepts that the user is familiar with, instead of using industry specific terms that the user has a hard time understanding. And I gave an example of using let's say for a fintech app, using financial terms when you're like designing a fintech for young people to use. You don't need big grammar and industry jargon for that. You need simple language. You need language that your users can understand because you're designing for your users. Then the third one, so moving on, the third one, user control and freedom. This is that users often perform actions by mistake, and they need a clearly marked emergency exit to leave the unwanted state. So this just talks about the ability to undo. Yeah, the ability to undo. So let's say and the ability to go back. Let's say a user is using your product and then they mistakenly find themselves, maybe they're not very familiar with your product, even though your navigation is very clear, but based on their, let's say maybe their literacy levels or their maybe cognitive abilities, they are not able to clearly find their way through your site. This has nothing to do with whether your site, has good navigation, like your navigation is perfect. So what this user control and freedom says that what it means is that don't make the user feel like they are lost in a void and they can't find themselves. So let there be a way for the user to go back to home. Let there be a way for the user to undo, go back to familiar ground, go back to the safety zone. Yeah, a clearly marked emergency exit to leave the unwanted states wherever they find themselves within your product. This is very, very, very important. It's very important. Very, very important. Because of this, people can abandon products because of this. And they will claim, oh, the app is hard to navigate to because they found themselves in one place and they couldn't get themselves out of it. I've had that happen to me. Then we have the fourth usability heuristic, which is consistency and standards. So this talks about how users should not have to wonder whether different words, situations, or actions mean the same thing. So you should follow pattern and platform conventions, follow patterns. So what this talks about is consistency, being consistent. If you're using certain a specific type of tone or a specific language, make sure you apply that all through your design, all through your product. If you're using a specific color or a color palette, make sure that color palette stays consistent all through the design. If there's a certain shape or a certain pattern, make sure it stays consistent all through the design. And then when I say follow the patterns or follow platform conventions or standards, what I'm talking about is follow how other apps, other products, how they do things. We have what we call patterns. These are like sets of standards that are used in design. just like how your modal always appears the same or similar across different products, just like how your drop downs appear similar or the same across different products. Those are patterns. Just like how your menu, your hamburger menu is widely used. That's a pattern. Just like how the navigation on the site is always at the top. That's a pattern. So not doing unconventional designs. That's what this heuristic talks about. Following standards, following patterns, following consistency. So then the other consistency is the internal consistency, meaning making sure that your elements are consistent all through. The elements of your design are consistent all through. Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Please confirm. Okay, yes, sorry
I
about
can
that.
still hear you.
What was the last? Michael, come again.
No, I'm saying I can hear you from my end.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. So there was like a break, I think. So what was the last thing you heard me say? Jeremiah, are you with us?
Talking about the pattern. Yes, I can hear you, man. I can hear you.
Okay.
Talking about
Okay,
the
I was talking
pattern.
about.
The pattern should be consistent throughout.
All right, all right. Okay, so let's continue. So okay. So the pattern should be consistent with the the standard way of doing things. And I think after that, I spoke about the two types of consistency that we have. We have internal consistency and external consistency. Internal consistency being consistency of your elements within your design or your product, while external consistency meaning your product or your design being consistent with the standard way of doing things. You're not really deviating from the norm. Like you can be innovative, you can be creative, but make sure that certain commonly used patterns like are used, like certain commonly used standards are used within your design. This will create a sense of familiarity amongst your users. Yeah, they won't feel lost. Yeah, let's see. So that's that. Then the fifth one, which is error prevention. Error prevention. Error prevention. So good error messages are important, but the best designs prevent problems from occurring in the first place. A good example of this is maybe a sign up or a login screen. Let's take a mobile sign up or login screen. I'm sure you've seen lots of that. Now, you'd see some that they actually require you to have, like for your password, to have maybe an uppercase letter, a lowercase letter, special characters, and a number, right? But then some of these products, in during the sign in or sign up, it's until you have actually typed the whole password and try to log in, or even maybe you don't try to log in, but it's until after you've already typed the whole password, and maybe when you typed it, you just use lowercase letter, and then that's when it will start bringing up this error message and be like, or maybe you see one tiny red text underneath that will be like, you need your password isn't strong enough, blah blah blah. So what this heuristic is saying is that you want to prevent that, so that while the user is typing, you're actually ticking whether the password has uppercase and the user is seeing it. You're ticking whether the password has lowercase. You're ticking whether the password has special characters, ticking whether the password has numbers. Some would use checkboxes, which will be ticking as the user is typing in their password, while some will use a progress, the kind of progress bar that once the password is strong enough, medium strong, weak password, that kind of thing. So this prevents error messages, and it's actually best. So the best designs prevent problems from occurring in the first place. So that's the fifth usability heuristic, error prevention. Then the sixth one is recognition rather than recall. So this is also part of using consistent elements. So like what it says is minimize the user's memory load by making elements, actions, and options visible instead of making the user start to remember information or try to recall, oh, what does this mean? Where have I seen this before? Use commonly used elements, use commonly used, navigation, maybe actions or flows, and commonly use and make sure that everything within your design is clearly visible so that once the user sees it, they can immediately recognize it instead of trying to remember. Yeah. So recognition rather than recall. Yeah, because I've seen some like now I think there was this frequently asked questions section on the site, and they didn't use the normal either plus, which would expand the frequently asked question, or a downward chevron or arrow, which would expand. So they use something else, and I was like, I thought it was kind of confusing. Had they used maybe, and I'm sure that other people, maybe non-designer users would have actually had issues trying to, oh, what does this mean? Have I seen this somewhere before? Yeah, that kind of thing. Then so that's that on recognition rather than recall. Then the seventh one is flexibility and efficiency of use. So what does this mean? Simple, shortcuts. That's why sites, that's desktop apps, that's why sites have shortcuts to make the users work, to make the users activities, to make the user more efficient when using your using your product. Yeah. So that's it, flexibility and efficiency of use. As I mentioned, shortcuts. So yeah, and you see that it said hidden from novice users. Yeah, that's why when you come upon a product, an app, a web app, a desktop app, which these are a product that actually make use of shortcuts. I think this only applies to desktop apps. Yeah. Mobile apps don't make use of these kind of shortcuts unless maybe you're looking at something like an iPad or a tablet, whereby you can link maybe an external keyboard to it and then be able to use keyboard shortcuts. Yeah, but this just works for products that are designed for devices that have keyboard shortcuts enabled. So as I was saying, when maybe you're just trying out a product for the first time, you're a new user and you log in, let's say Figma for instance, they don't come and start throwing shortcuts in your place. Instead, they hide them within the options, so that when you want to actually, click and navigate to take a particular option, you now see that, oh, this is a shortcut for it. And they don't make it too, intrusive and too in your face. Instead, it's just subtle. And it's only when you actually want to notice those shortcuts that you notice it. So shortcuts actually meant to make users that have been using your products speed up their work as they start. They may speed up the interaction for the expert user. So that's what shortcuts are for, and that's what this usability heuristic talks about: flexibility and efficiency of use. Then for the eighth one, aesthetic and minimalist design. This says that interfaces should not contain information that is irrelevant. Minimalism is key in creating best, or in fact, both usable aesthetics, like both in usability, both in aesthetics, both in usefulness, both in navigation. Minimalism is key if you want to attain all this. So your interfaces should not contain too much information, too much irrelevant information, and not just even information, even design elements too. You're having buttons everywhere, having like that Yale website that we looked at last week, which had so many elements all over the place, and some of them were not even relevant. So you want to make sure that every bit of information in your UI actually has an important role. That is, it has an important role. It's not just if so, like there's this quote where it says that the best design isn't gotten when you've added everything that there is to add, but when there is no longer anything else to remove. So if you want to know that your design is actually good, look for what else to remove. And when you can't see anything to remove that won't actually affect the um, the design or affect the information that you're trying to pass across, take away from it, then that means you're good to go. But if you still have things that you can remove, then please do. Please do. So each extra bit of information in an interface competes with the relevant units of information. If you're having any other information that is actually not necessary, what it does is that it diverts the user's attention from the actual information, the actual content that you want the user to have access to. Okay, so that's that on aesthetic and minimalist design. Then moving on to the ninth one, recognize, diagnose, and recover from errors. So this says that error messages should be expressed in plain language, not error codes, not error codes. So if you have a little bit of front end knowledge, you know that I think there's a sort of code that is used to, let's say, categorize or catalog errors. So each code has a meaning, and when there's an error, it is those codes that actually show. So I'm sure you've seen something like 404. So 404 is an error code. So what they're saying is that in some sites you just see 404, and I think the first time I saw that, like many years ago, I was like, what is 404? Like, what does it mean? And I'm sure that there'll still be people who would see that and be like, oh, 504. There are many different error codes, and they have specific meaning. So instead of just throwing that error code in the user's face, please tell the user what is wrong. Is it that what they are looking for is not found, they can't be found, or it doesn't exist, or they made a wrong navigation, or whatever it is? Express that in plain language, precisely indicate what the problem is, and also don't just tell what the problem is, also offer a solution. So that's why you see in some sites, when you get to their error pages, they won't just tell you, oh, page not found. They would actually, some will provide a search option for you to actually search for what it is that you're looking for on their site, or some would help you navigate to the home page, yeah, for you to make your way from there. So like there needs to be a clear statement of the problem, and also a solution. Like what next? What's the next step? Okay, I've hit a wall within your app. I've received an error message. What next? What should I do? Okay, you need to tell them that. Then the 10th one and the last one, which is help and documentation, it says that it is best if the design doesn't need any additional explanation. However, it may be necessary to provide documentation to help users understand how to complete their tasks. So what this says is that the best designs are actually clear enough, easy to navigate through, not too much explanation, but like the user can very well find their way through basically all the UI, all the screens, all the pages. But it says that if it is necessary to provide information, make sure you provide a documentation to help users understand what to do. Yeah, you could see this in the form of tooltips or modals in certain sites and apps. Yeah, like telling you what to do. Even though there's already clear copy that states, oh, do this, but they still feel like just to make things clear, they want to express that. With all these disability heuristics, one thing it hammers in is that remember you're designing for your users. Whatever it is that you're doing, remember you're designing for your users. So that's what these whole critics tell us. That's what they're trying to hammer in and guide us in ensuring that we are building usable products. We are building products that are user centric. We are building products that care about the people using them, our users. Okay, so I think let me just move up a little and then I would list out the 10 heuristics and I would like open the floor for questions. And please, I need questions, but not questions of I think I'm also going to share this with you guys for you to have this here, and then you could use it to refresh your memory. So I'll just share this little PDF here. So so the first one, visibility of system status. 2, match between system and the real world. 3, user control and freedom. 4, consistency and standards. 5, error prevention. 6, recognition rather than recall. 7, flexibility and efficiency of use. 8, aesthetic and minimalist design. 9, recognize, diagnose, and recover from errors. 10, help and documentation. Yeah, so these are all the 10 usability heuristics. So please, now it's time for you to ask questions. And if you don't have any questions, then I'll ask you questions. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to mute myself now. And if you want to speak, just unmute and ask your question. Okay, Elizabeth, you said you can't see my screen. How about now?
Yeah, I
And
can
is
see your screen now.
okay? You can see it now. All right, thank you. So okay, so see what I'm going to do for the benefit of those of us just joining. I would just scroll through the like what I'm sharing, the heuristics one more time. Yeah, so this is 1 to 4. Then let me scroll down. Yeah, then 5 to 10. So while you're like looking at this, so ask your questions, please. Okay. So I'm going to mute myself now. So I would leave okay, I think I would leave 2 minutes, 6:34. So by 6:36, if none of us have questions, I would ask. Yeah. And I would also stop sharing my screen too, at least that particular page. So we have 1 more minute, less than 1 minute actually. Okay, so that means no questions. All right. So we have Ola, we have Elizabeth, we have Jeremiah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing that screen. I'll share the screen that shows what we'll be covering today for this week, and I'll go ahead and ask my questions. I expect everyone to participate, even if you didn't join from the beginning. I'm sure you heard, something from what I mentioned. Yeah, and you should be able to. So I'm also link to the chat, a link to an article that you might want to read up on. It explains these heuristics in detail. Yeah, explains in detail. My screen. If this, all right. Okay, so my questions now. So once you have an answer, so I would like for one of us to actually list out the 10 heuristics. You just list it out. Don't really go too deep. Just list it out in a way that you understand. Yeah, the 10 of them. Jeremiah, would you like to do that? Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me? Okay, well, let me just share the link.
I hear you.
Okay, please go ahead. Okay, so while Jeremiah is prepared, okay, are you ready now,
Ma,
Jeremiah?
yeah, about the Jacob's 10, the disability rest and instincts.
Mm-hmm.
Question.
I wonder if it's from my own end, but I'm struggling to hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
The visibility of system status designs should keep users informed.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about the consistency and standards. Where you're
Mm-hmm. Please go on.
talking about consistency should be throughout. But you should not have to wonder about different situations. Uh, and that patterns that you are and then some patterns should not confuse the user in such a way that it should not.
Mm-hmm. I cannot. Okay, continue. I think you're trying to say something.
Okay, okay. And um, when also design consider that there should be a way that the user should be able to recognize whatever it's using. That's like recognition. so that you overload. When we're talking about users, how like they should not overload. How overload. So it's
Mhm.
for products navigate the platform.
Are you still saying something?
No, I'm not saying anything.
All right. Okay, so is that all? Like, are you done?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you. And that was a good one, at least, although it was kind of breaking, but from what I heard,
Hello.
yeah,
Yes, can you hear me?
actually, yes, I can hear you now. Yeah, you actually got um a lot right, the ones you mentioned. So Ola and Elizabeth, do you have any questions from what Jeremiah said? Do you have any questions? Any questions?
No, ma.
Okay. Elizabeth, I guess that would be a no. So let's continue. So this week, this was actually what was intended for this week, but will be called treating UI design fundamentals. Basically, all that there is that you need to know about UI design. So let's just do a quick recall. Last week we spoke about the differences between UI design, UX design, product design. So let's focus on UI design. So as I said last week, UI design is the process of creating, visually appealing and intuitive user interfaces that allows users to interact with products effectively. So you have a product in mind, you have a product you want to build. You need to design the entry point for your users. Before the users can actually get value from your product, they need to go through your UI, your user interface. And that is UI design. Designing a captivating or visually appealing and intuitive user interface in which users can interact with your product. So UI design just is all about visual elements, aesthetics, layouts, interaction design of products like websites, mobile apps, desktop apps, even wearables like your watches. Um, you would even have to do a UI design for smart TVs, for smart refrigerators. In those, like they have screens, meaning they have user interfaces, digital user interfaces. So, and these digital user interfaces require a design. Yeah, so that's that on UI design. So, like, why is it so important? Why is it so important that we have to, like, really talk about that, really delve into it? Because it's all it is. Like, it's all it is. As I said before, you want to deliver value, you need a user interface, because that's like the entry point whereby your user will be able to interact with whatever value it is that you're giving them. So good UI design is crucial for the success of any digital product. A well-designed UI would enhance user satisfaction, would improve the usability of a product, and will bring more people to to your product. That is to drive engagement. Whereas a bad UI design or a bad user interface or a poorly defined user interface, it can cause frustration, it will lead to confusion, and ultimately it will cause drop off. That is a decrease in user adoption. People won't want to use your product anymore, and even your users, you start losing them. People would be, oh, this product is not very good. This product UI is bad. Like the rate at which user interface design is so popular that even the layman actually knows what a UI is, and you hear people saying stuff like, "Oh, UI is bad," or "I've even heard the experience is bad." So like this is what makes it very very important. This is what makes it very very important. It is the point of access, and it has a very important role. It has a very important role. If it's poorly designed, people can navigate through. That will lead to frustration. If people, can't achieve their goals, they could get confused. And when you can't use something, and the use with which something was created for is it's not functioning, like it's not giving that value, it's not carrying out, it's not exhibiting that usefulness, then that thing is as good as useless. So a poor UI design can basically render a product useless. Yeah. Then so let's look at the different elements of UI design. So we'll just be taking everything about UI design and we'll look at these different elements. We have typography, we have color, we have icons, and we have imagery. So for today, we will not, really delve deep into each one, but I would brush up on like all these um all these elements and explain their usefulnesses, explain the roles, what roles that they play. Yeah. So the first one is typography. Honestly, if I think there was a particular time that I was trying to like arrange these elements in order of their importance. Yeah, in order of their importance. I think color came first, then typography, then layout, and then imagery. Yeah. So, but let's start from typography. I'm sure we all recognize the term typography. It has to do with text. Yeah, it has to do with text. Text. So typography is basically text, which is also called your copy, written text. So in typography, we have what we call typefaces, and we have what we call fonts. These two are often used interchangeably, but I'll just briefly define each one. So a typeface is the name of a type. Yeah, the name of a type. That is the name of a created like the name of a type. Yeah, I'm not sure if you understand. You're clear on the term type, but a type is basically text. So the name of a type that's or a type of type, but the name of a type is your typeface. That is like your Calibri, your Cambry, your Roboto, your Inter, your Times New Roman, your Poppins. There are many. Your Arial. There are many. These are called typefaces. That name, the name of each one of those things that I mentioned, those are called typefaces. Yeah, but most people don't call them that. They call them fonts, but fonts is actually not the term. Fonts is like the children under a typeface. Yeah, fonts are like the children under a typeface. So let's say you have a typeface and your typeface is called Arial, right? Or Arial. I don't know how they pronounce it, but I call it Arial. So let's say your typeface is Arial, and then your font would be Arial bold, right? Your font would be Arial bold or Arial medium or Arial bold italic or Arial italic. Those are fonts. So you'd like to imagine a typeface as a family of fonts. It encompasses all the different fonts, the bolds, the italics, the thin, the regular, the semi-bold, the black, the extra bold. Those are a family of fonts which are a typeface. But people use them interchangeably, and you just need to know which one is which one, because there would be cases whereby you would work with people who actually know the right terms for these things. And even from now, try and make sure that you're using the right terms. You're calling what the typeface a typeface, and calling a font a font. So when you're designing, you're focusing on usability, right? As a UI designer, you're focusing on, now, for your web apps, for your websites, for your mobile designs, people are going to spend lots of time on your designs. They are going to perform tasks. They're going to have goals that they would want to achieve. And this could take minutes. This could even take hours. People spend lots of time like using digital products. So you want to choose typefaces that are legible, easy to read, and make sure that typeface is consistent. So in UI design, you don't play with typefaces, you don't play with fonts, you don't play with typefaces. At most, you would use just two. And one thing you're looking out for is, oh, this is readable. My user doesn't have to strain their eye. They don't have to strain their eyes. They just, read, and it's easy to read, and they can get information, go do what it is they have to do, achieve their goals, and they're out. That is what will make them want to come back, because they are being productive, even if sometimes the productivity might be negative, but that is what the user is concerned about. Okay, I can come to this product, I can use this, go through this UI, and I'll be able to get what I want done. I'll be able to get it done. I'll be able to achieve what I want to achieve. So you're focusing on legibility, easy, like ease to read, and then consistency. When I say consistency, I mean using no more than two typefaces. And even when you're using fonts, I would say using no more than 4 fonts. In fact, 3 steps is okay. So like if you're using, in fact, there are lots of designs. There are many designs that you would design whereby you just have to use one typeface. Something like Inter, you just have to use one typeface throughout. And now that's what I would even advise. Use typefaces that have many fonts that you can play with, that have like light, regular, bold, medium, semi-bold. Yeah. So you can decide to pick three of these fonts for this typeface. You can decide to, okay, for this design, I would use regular, I would use semi-bold to create a little emphasis, and I would use bold to create much emphasis. And when you're using them, be careful how you're using them. Use them consistently. So like if you use regular for your body text, make sure that regular is consistent all throughout your design. You're not switching between bold and italic and regular for your body text. So that is consistency, not using different things, making sure that the user can actually recognize each text just by looking at it. They don't even need to process the text, but they see that, oh, I've seen this used as a body text before. Oh, this is another body text, and then they try to process the information that you're giving them. So I think that's on typography. But in the coming weeks, we'll actually delve deeper into each of these elements: typography, color, imagery and icons, and then layout and composition. So next is color. The next is color. Next is color. So in UI design, you're going to be dealing with what we call a color palette. Yeah, you're going to be dealing with what we call a color palette, whereby you would have sets of colors that you would apply all through your design. It's advisable to actually have your color palette prepared. This would aid consistency. And when you're choosing colors, just like every form of design, we know that colors have they are attached to different emotions based on location, based on culture, yeah, and based on nature. Yeah. Like these three things are what determine the meaning behind colors: location, culture, nature. So because of the way the sky is, peaceful and peaceful, people tend to attach calmness to blue. And then out of like now in because of certain locations and certain culture, because of, okay, let's use night now, because of how the night is dark, and many people get scared of the night, and because of darkness, people tend to attach a feeling of doom to black. But not just doom, there are also many other feelings attached to black. There's also the feeling of masculinity attached to black. There's also the feeling um, of sophistication attached to black. So, and these are based on location. These are based on natural things that we see around us. All these things influence how people perceive color. It's like how in white we see color as, like how white we see white as the color of purity, right? So this is because maybe from the Christian religion, um, we've like that is the culture, right? That is the culture for Christians. White means purity, and then when we see white, we tend to interpret that with purity. Then looking at green is the color that that comes with plant, that is most abundant in nature, and you tend to attach the feeling of replenishment, the feeling of growth, yeah, the feeling of growth with the color green. Yeah. So as I mentioned, location, culture, and nature. So when you are designing, you need to determine, okay, what feeling am I trying to trigger? What feeling am I trying to invoke? When people use my product, when they use my design, what do I want them to feel? Or rather, when they use my design, not rather, or also when they use my design, what are they expecting to feel? Yeah, those are two things. So you want to know what they expect to feel, and you want to also know what you want them to feel. So like now, you're creating a game app or a gaming website. You know that anybody coming then will feel like is feeling excitement already. So you would want to use colors that would actually, will I say sharpen or like flame that, what's the right word that I would use? But would actually cultivate that feeling, you know, and amplify the feeling. Yeah, you'd want to use a color that would amplify the feeling. A colors like yellow. Yeah. A color like yellow is associated with excitement. Something bubbly. You'd want to use something like that to amplify whatever feeling it is that the user is feeling. And at the first instance, that at the first point of contact with your product. Then also, maybe you also want them to feel a sense of pride or a sense of sophistication. You could use something like purple. Or if you want them to feel a sense of danger to add to the excitement, you could use something colors like black. So all these things, there's no mistake with colors. Like that's why most of these initial social media apps that started, they made use of blues a lot, because they wanted to evoke the feeling of calmness. Then you see something like TikTok or Instagram using gradients of sharp colors. I think TikTok uses black, and Instagram uses a gradient of pink and red, and I think one other color. So these colors are used intentionally to evoke or to encourage certain feelings within people. It's not by mistake. And in UI design, we use the best type of design is a minimalist design, and this also applies in color. You're using color sparingly and intentionally You're not just cramming all the different colors into your design. No, each color has a meaning, has a reason. You could be using it to create contrast. You could be using it, you know, to amplify something, yeah, or call attention to a certain thing, or to create consistency, to create familiarity. So okay, to tell people that, oh, this is associated with this. So one thing you have to pay attention to when picking colors is consistency. So when picking choosing colors in UI design, we usually have you'd have a primary color, you have a secondary color, but it's not a must. You can do well with just the primary color. Then you will have accent colors. Yeah, accent colors are usually three, just different colors that you would use, in tiny little bits in your design to draw attention to certain things. Then you have your error color, which is your red, your warning color, which is your danger, and um your success color, which is usually green. And aside from that, you'd have your shades, which are your black and your white, your neutral colors. Yeah. So there's this rule called the 60-30-10 rule. It talks about like the ratio with which you would apply your colors. So you have three colors. So the dominant color takes the 60, which is usually the color for the background. Then the primary color or the second dominant color takes the 30, which is usually maybe the secondary color or the primary color in some cases. And then we have the 10, which is one or more of your accent colors or your secondary color, depending on how you're using the color. But you'd have one dominant color, which will take up 60% of your product, a less dominant color, which will take like 30% of your product, and then like another color which is not dominant at all, which take just 10% of the entire product. So that is that on color. Then for icons, but as I mentioned earlier, we'll touch on these as we proceed, like all through the course of this bootcamp. Then looking at icons and imagery. Icons and imagery. Just the way color tells, just the way colors evoke feelings, you use icons and imagery with intentionality too. You don't just pack different icons. I've seen cases whereby some people in one particular app, they are using illustrations, using pictures, and even the pictures set. Some are pictures of white people, some are pictures of black people. Like this was everything was just scattered. But you have to pay attention to this thing depending on your user. If you're designing for kids, then you want to use lots of illustrations. Even if you're designing for adults, you could still use illustrations, but then it's always best not to clash illustrations with images. So if you're going for illustrations, you stick with illustrations. If you're going for images, with images. So if you're using images, if you're using images, make sure that there's something I like to do, which is you pay attention to the colors within the image, maybe the background, maybe like maybe it's a picture of someone. What color is that person wearing? You actually have to make sure that it kind of rhymes with your color. That will create consistency, like your color palette, because that will create consistency. Yes, you cannot have a mostly blue UI. Let's say blue is your dominant color, and then you're using images that have orange all over the place, or orange, red, like different colors. You would notice that if you actually use images that are of similar or contain elements that have similar colors to your chosen color, it would look more harmonized, more together. People won't even be able to tell the difference. Everything just looks so good together, and they will not even know why, realize why. So, and also looking at icons are very, very, very important. Icons and images, because they kind of what they do is that they add, especially icons, they are used to draw attention, yeah, or reinforce an idea. Let's say you already have an idea, like they're actually used in to accompany text, to reinforce an idea that you're trying to convey through your text. Let's say you want somebody to maybe you're designing a mobile app, and the mobile app is for kids. Maybe it's an e-commerce, and then you want to tell them that, oh, get products that you love, product that you can trust. The best way to reinforce that idea and stamp it into the mind of the user is to actually get images of people actually, having good times shopping and getting with joyful faces, getting what they want. Yeah, so this should be used intentionally, very, very intentionally. And looking at icons, in UI design, we have two types of icons, most majorly. Yeah, we have the solid icons and we have the outline icons, or I would say the field icons and the outline icons. So what do I mean? Like now, this icon here, this thing here, this is called an outline icon. This is actually an icon for image. This is called an outline icon. All these, 1, 2, 3, these are outline icons. But look at this color, color wheel here. Now this would pass for a field icon. Why? What's the difference between a field icon and an outline icon? You see, it just has an outline. The the um the middle is empty, it's just outlined like a tracing. Why for this it looks solid, filled. The middle isn't empty, and the same thing applies for all icons. Most icon parts, places where you can find icons, usually have these two. Most icon parts or icon libraries, you see they would have both outline and filled icons. So depending on which one you want to use, yeah, you can choose any one. So if you're using outline icons, make sure you're sticking with outline icons all through your design. If you're using field icons, make sure you're sticking with field icons all through your design. Except maybe like there's a way you can use these two to draw attention to create contrast. So like I'm not sure you've noticed that in some mobile apps, in the navigation, maybe when you have like home, I think I should show you something. Yeah, let me show you. I should get a design and show you. So hold on while I do that. I should be able to find one that actually talks about what I want to show you. Okay, so I'll share this part of my screen now. I'm sure we're all following. I need to get a response. Is everyone following? Is everyone following?
Yes. Yes.
Jeremiah, I'm not hearing you. Okay, yeah, I heard you now. Yeah, I heard you. And so far, do you have any question? Does anyone have any questions so far?
No.
Okay. Okay. So can you see my screen? You can see the white and blue navigation.
Yes, ma.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So this is the bottom of a mobile app, the part that has the navigation bar, the nav bar. So these are the different places whereby you can click to navigate to different screens. So all these icons, from the search to categories to carts to accounts, these are all outline icons. But now look at this home. This home is not outline. This home is a field icon. And why was it used? It was used to tell the user that, okay, this is the screen that you are on. This is the screen that you selected. This is where you are now. Yeah, this is where you are. So it creates contrast, and then it's the one that sticks out the most and draws the user's attention to it. And based on based on now. Look up here. Can you see this? This is an outline of that home. So this is the outline version of the home icon. Yeah. So like, do we all get this?
Yes, I get it.
All right. All right. So let's continue. Let's continue. Now, the next one is layout and composition. Layout and composition. This talks about alignment. This talks about information architecture, and I'll explain each one one after the other. So I'm sure we are familiar with alignment. I think we already treated that where we spoke about the different types of alignment, left aligned, right aligned, center aligned, justified. Yeah. So those are different alignment. I think that justified is just for text. Yeah. You see justified alignment with text. So, but for generally UI elements, we have you align things to the left, you align them to the right, or you align them to the center. Excuse me. So when you're looking at layout and composition, you want to look at your alignment. You want to make sure that there's balance. You can see this. You can see this icon. You want to make sure that there's balance in the weight in either your screen or your mobile screen or web app or whatever. You want to make sure that there is balance. And then composition talks about the content of your screen, of your product. Do you have the right information on it? The message you're trying to pass across, is it clear enough? These are all the things that you need to pay attention to. The message you're trying to pass across, is it clear enough? Do you have all the information you need on your screen? So I'm going to show you like an example of just some mobile screens that actually would look at the layout. They will look at the layout, see if there's one or two things that we can pick from this. Yeah. Okay, so I'll share a different screen this time around. Okay. So can we all see this?
Yes.
Yes, ma.
Okay.
Yes.
So now let's look at this one. Okay, let's start from here. So you can see that everything here, can someone tell me the alignment here for this first screen? Is it left, centered, or right?
Centered.
Anyone else? For this first screen though, this white screen.
Centered.
Okay, why do you say centered? Can someone tell me why? Is there a reason why you think it is centered? I'm looking at
Cause,
just go ahead, please.
cause just looking at the first screen, the starting from the design, you can see that the design is at the middle of the screen, following by the text. So I can see it is a centered layout.
Okay, okay. What if I told you that this screen is actually left aligned? Yeah. Okay, so when you're looking at alignment, You're looking at the elements, or you're taking them individually. So this design here, this pattern here, it is in the center, right? Meaning that the distance here and the distance here are equal. That is, the distance from the two sides of the mobile frame are equal. That means it's at the center. But now, if you move down to this text, you realize that the distance here and the distance here are not the same. This text is closer to this side than it is to this side. The same thing goes with this subtitle text and this button here, this text button here. Now, if you now look at all these three, you realize that they are all on one line. That you can draw a line, a straight line from here downwards. But you can't do the same thing here. Once you draw a line, it won't be straight. Excuse me. I try and draw an imaginary line from the left side, you'll see it's straight. So that means everything is aligned to the right, to the left, sorry. Excuse me. Thank you. Meaning that the left side of the frame is the starting point. So this screen is left aligned. So did we all get that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so it's clear, right?
Yes, ma.
So let's look at okay. So let's look at the second one now. Let's look at the second one. Let me take this in. So for this, now this we can't really look at the alignment here because you will see that everything is left aligned because you can draw a line from here. So just pay that in mind, that line. So if anyone asks you the alignment, just say it's left and right. You can draw a line here, but you can't draw a line here. But now, do you know one thing? We can see that this design is very balanced. That the weight here on this side, on the left side, is actually equal to the weight on the right side. So this picture here, this avatar, is actually right aligned. And the avatar, and if you look very clearly, you'll see that there are circles under the avatar. The avatar, together with these circles, balances what is here. It doesn't make it feel like this space is empty. It feels like this space is occupied, like there's content here and there's also content. So that is how we create balance. What is here looks as if it's equal to what is here. And then the same thing here. Look at this card, it looks balanced. What is here also, this monthly review is equal to what is here. Then the cards, they all balance out each other. So this screen has a very good composition and a good layout. Everything balances out. Likewise, this third one here, everything balances out. So you know that people read like this. Actually, people read in an F pattern, meaning they read from left to right, then start again from left to right, and then scan down. That's how people read. And then people scan in a Z pattern. So if you're designing, you should make sure you're paying attention to that. Thinking of, okay, how are people going to read this? They're going to read like this. So make sure that you're creating balance. So the first thing the user would see when they come on this screen would be this, because it's the biggest, right? Because it is the biggest. And then their eyes could actually go here. Oh, look at the avatar for like maybe 1 second before they continue to the main information here. So that's that on layout. So let's continue. Then the core UI design principle. So I know we already talked about principles of design last week, and we brought them into this week with heuristic. But let's look at these core UI design principles just for UI design, not design general, just for UI design. So we have 5 of them. We have usability, we have consistency, we have visual hierarchy, we have accessibility, and responsiveness. Don't mind this. This is an error. I think I should be able to correct this. Yeah. Yeah. Responsiveness. All right. So, okay, but before we move on, let me go back to the previous slide. Let me go back to the previous slide. So, who has, like, does anyone have any questions so far? Like, not just on these elements, but like for everything we've treated so far. Have any questions popped up? Is there anything you're maybe struggling to, put together, or anything that is conflicting with maybe your past knowledge or what you have, like an idea you have? Do you have any questions?
Okay, Ma, I have a question.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, it's about the color you were talking about. We were talking about
Mm-hmm.
60, 30, and 10% rule. I don't really get that part.
Okay, okay. So, so what it means is that for a design, try and make sure that your, like, the main colors. I'm sure you'll understand this like as we are progressing, because we're actually going to treat colors specifically. But like when you're designing, try and make sure that your main colors are actually no more than three. You can have just three colors and then different shades. Let me show that, just like the image I shared before. If you look at this, you see that they're just, if this is perfect, I thank God, I think I can use this like to explain. So if you look at this, how many colors can you see? You see, Elizabeth, can you unmute and just tell me, just for this screen alone, how many colors can you see here? Just give me three
Um,
colors, just three.
two. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Three colors, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can see three colors.
Okay, yeah, which one? Just name them.
White, blue,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
light blue.
Actually, okay, wait, so, well, you're, okay, let me explain. So, you're right, we have three colors here, but it is
Yes.
not blue, white, and light blue. We have what we
Okay.
call shades. We have what we call tints and what's it called? We have what we call tints, I think, tints and tones. Yeah, tints and tones. So we actually have blue, green, and white. This blue that you can see here is just a lighter shade of the general blue. So they achieved this here by either making this transparent, by reducing the transparency, or by using or adding more white to it. So that is called a tint. When you add more white to a color, you get a tint, right? When you add more black to a color, that is to darken the color. I think just like this one, this text here, this is the same blue, but it's just a darker version of the blue. You get a tone. So there's just three colors here. There's blue, there's green, and then there's white. So I think this design applies the 60-30-10 rule. So what is the most dominant color here, Elizabeth?
Blue.
Yeah, perfect, is the blue. Then the second dominant color is what?
Um, white.
Yes, perfect, white. That's the 30%. Can you see? It just takes up
Yes, ma.
approximately 30%. Then the least dominant color is what?
Green.
Green. Yeah. So it's just here and here. That's all. Just here and here. So that's it. Blue takes up 60%, white takes up 30%, then green takes up 10%. And it makes everything look not too cluttered. That's why the people who came up with that rule, and that's why that rule has like grown very popular. People apply it in design. Like now they also apply the same rule here, except that this one, the dominant color is white, the second dominant color is blue. And I think okay, they didn't even use up to 3 colors, they just use white and different shades of blue. Yeah, different shades of blue. And I think I said a tone is a darker color. That's actually wrong. The word I was looking for is shade. Yeah. Or is it tone? I think I'm having a mix of some, but it's either a tone or a shade. A darker version of a color. Okay, I think it's tone, tints and tones. Yeah, I was right. Tints and tones. So a lighter version of a color is a tint, while a darker version of the color is a tone. Okay. So Elizabeth, has this answered your question?
Yes, ma.
Okay. So like from now on, you'll be able to pinpoint the 60-30-10 rule in designs.
Yeah, to an extent.
All right. All right. But you can experiment, just try, get different designs or maybe an app on your phone and try and see if they use the 60-30-10 rule. Yeah. And if you can actually, pinpoint it. Okay.
Yes, ma.
So okay, so let's continue. Are there any other questions? I'll take that as a rule, right? Okay, so let's move on. So we're looking at the core UI design principles: usability, consistency, visual hierarchy, accessibility, and responsiveness. So let's look at usability. So I just have like will I say like quotes here. So for usability, all usability is all about is that the interface should be easy to use and understand, should have clear navigation, and should have intuitive interactions. So I've actually been expecting someone to ask me the meaning of intuitive. Actually, I've been expecting someone to ask me the meaning of intuitive. What intuitive means is that it triggers feelings. Let me get a good definition. Let me get a good definition. That you can actually use a design based on your feelings. That you don't even need to you don't even need to have used a product before, or you don't need to be an expert or a pro. But if you say a design is intuitive, it means that they can navigate through it based on their instincts alone, based on their feelings of right or wrong. Okay, this is where I should go. But based on your feelings, your gut feeling. Yeah, that's what an intuitive design or an intuitive product, that the user will just be able to find their way around it. That's intuitiveness. So the interface should be easy to use and understand. It should have a clear navigation and should have intuitive interaction. So that's how usability. That's what usability means: ease of use, be easy to understand, clear navigation, intuitive interactions. User can find their way around it. They know where to go, where to click, what to press, where to type, that kind of thing. So that's what usability is, and that is a core UI design principle, meaning that your design must follow the usability principle. It must be usable. Your design must be usable. Your product must be usable. Then another one which we've mentioned, I've kept on saying it, is consistency. Consistency, meaning you need to have consistent design elements and patterns throughout the interface to help users navigate and understand the product more easily. That's what consistency does. The user gets familiar with the product. They're able to find their way around the different parts of it. They begin to understand the products better and better. That's what consistency does. They begin to associate different things with different. Let's say they've been seeing a certain color, they begin to associate that certain color to mean something. Let's say they've been seeing a certain typeface, they begin to associate that a meaning, a particular meaning to that typeface. So that's that's what consistency does. It helps users navigate better through your product, and it also helps them understand your product better. Yeah. So the next one is visual hierarchy. I think we spoke on this a lot in the last class. So when you use elements like color, size, and placement or position, or where your elements are positioned to guide the user's attention, and you also use it to prioritize information. So you want to draw the attention to a certain thing that you feel is most important and should be given utmost priority. You employ visual hierarchy. You can structure your site, that is placement. There's a way you can use color, that is the use of color, and then increase or decrease size to actually draw attention and guide users' attention throughout. Like, look at this slide. Once you come on this slide, the first thing you see is this. This is the most important thing. That is the visual hierarchy, followed by this. So even if you're even reading the first thing you will see will be this. Then the next thing you will go to want to read will be this. Before you even come and start thinking of this, or even lastly, that's if you even ever think of this here. So like for this, I use size to employ visual hierarchy here. It was size I use, and also placement too, because I placed this on the left hand side, which is where you're going to start reading from. Then the next one is accessibility. I think I mentioned accessibility in the last class. Designing interfaces that are accessible to users with disabilities. This ensures inclusivity, that you are including a wide range of users. You're designing for people of diverse abilities, whether disabled, whether able, whether special, whether normal, whether old, whether aged, whether whatever. This is the symbol for accessibility. So wherever you see this, I think even Chrome has accessibility. Chrome browsers have accessibility controls, whereby you can enable stuff like um, readers, yeah, for people who like voice readers, for people who can't maybe have eye problems. So it reads out the content on the site to the screen readers. Yeah. So so you need to pay attention to this when deciding on like your typography, the size of your text. Make sure that it's not too tiny, because so that people with eye problems can actually read clearly, without having to strain their eyes. Even the color, are they contrasting very well? You're not using red or orange, which don't contrast well, which are very similar. You're using colors that contrast so that people who are colorblind will be able to see the difference in those two colors, even though they cannot see the colors there for themselves. Then the last one is responsiveness. Yeah, responsiveness. Okay. All right. Let me just leave it. Oh, not. Okay. So responsiveness. Let me do this before I continue. Anyway, okay. Okay, so let's go through. Okay, this just says that when you're talking about responsiveness, you're looking at the devices that will be used, that your product will be used in. So interfaces should adapt to different screen sizes and devices. This provides a seamless user experience. Yeah. So you should make sure that if it's a this is especially for web applications built on the web, like your Chrome, like your products that you have to access using a browser. Yeah, this responsiveness, this is actually where it comes into play. So that You can access the site on a desktop app. You can access it on a tablet. You can access it on using a mobile phone, and it will still be like well adapted. It's not unlike some sites that when you open them on the desktop, they are very they are very like they look good, but then when you try and open them on your phone, you realize that everything is scattered. Some like navigation, like it's just scattered, like as if they squeeze the desktop app, and then the space will not contain, so everything just got disjointed. So that's not how your site or design or product is supposed to be. And that's why as designers we're expected to design like responsive screens. So if you are designing for you design for both a desktop and you design for both a mobile version, so that when they are developing your design, the developers would know, okay, these are the constraints I should set um for mobile. This is so like it's so this provides a seamless user experience, and users will be able to use your products across different platforms, across different devices. Yeah, so when you see a design that has like maybe a web version, a desktop version, and a mobile version, you say, oh, that's a responsive design. And then if you see the mobile version, be like, oh, this is mobile responsive. This is a mobile responsive version. And so that's on responsiveness. Then let's just look at the general best practices for UI design. So this is a list. We can see user testing, iterative design, simplicity, emotional design. So these are just best practices for UI design. What is first one, user test? But before we proceed, please, I want to ask any questions. Let me just go back. The different UI design principles. Do we have any questions around any of this? Usability, consistency, visual hierarchy, accessibility, and responsiveness. Do we have any questions?
Yes, I
Does
have a
anyone have?
question.
Okay, please go ahead.
I have a question. Okay, we're talking about accessibility. I don't really get it. We're talking about it for mobile and web. So I don't really like get the difference between the two.
Oh. I think you kind of missed you. I think you missed a few things. Wait, I'm still sharing. Are you serious? I have. Oh my God! I didn't share the slide. Please, next time someone should just unmute and tell me. I wasn't sharing my slide that time. I was still sharing the screen. So this is all I was telling you about: usability, consistency, visual hierarchy, accessibility, responsiveness. So this is all I spoke about. Then moving to accessibility is different from responsiveness. This is what talks about designing for people with diverse abilities, disabled people, able people. You want to include everyone. You want to make sure that your design is intuitive for everyone, is usable for everyone. Yeah, that's accessibility. Then responsiveness is now the one that talks about designing for both desktop and mobile or tablet or whichever. So like responsive, your design is adapted to different screen sizes and devices. So I think like that was the mistake. So this is it. The core UI design principles. We have usability, consistency, visual hierarchy, accessibility, and responsiveness. So this usability, consistency. I actually spoke about this. How the first thing you see is this visual hierarchy. So I employed visual hierarchy here using size and placement. So it's the largest thing here, and it's also to the left side, which is where you're going to start reading. So it was placed on the left side. So that means you'd read this first and then come here before you even start looking at this um, MLSA Unilag Bootcamp text here. So that's that. So like Elizabeth, has it answered your questions? Your question, sorry.
No, ma. I still have another question concerning this responsiveness.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so does it mean that we have to design for the desktop interface and the mobile interface separately
Yes,
for it to be
yes.
responsive? Because if you open some site, open it on desktop because you can't open on phone.
Yeah, yeah. There are some sites like that. But the thing is that not everybody, it's a best practice, right? It's what it's supposed to be. We're actually supposed to design for both desktop and mobile. But most people don't do it. And then when the developers are coding the site, they just code just the desktop version. And then when the user tries to open it in like using their mobile phones, everything just as if the whole website falls apart. That's how it looks like. So let me see if I can show you. I'll share my screen again. Let me see if I can show you. Let me show you an actual Figma design. That's yeah, an actual Figma design that has a mobile and web desktop responsive like it has desktop and mobile responsive. So while it's loading up, does anyone have any other questions? Does anyone have any other questions?
No, no,
No, ma.
Okay, then I want to ask a question, and I think everybody should give me an answer. So, from what we've been, from what we've like, treated today so far, what stood out most to you? Like, what was the one thing that, even if like you're woken up from sleep, you would you'll be able to like give a good enough explanation or definition of it.
no,
So now let me share something. So can everyone see this?
Yes, I can see it.
hello,
So this is the desktop version. Then this is the mobile version. You can see how the placement is like the layout is different.
Oh,
The
yes.
layout here, yeah, was made to accommodate, everything in a smaller screen. Why there's so much space here. So if you don't give these two to a developer, they will not actually know um adapt your design for a mobile version. And that's why when you see those apps, when you open them on your phone, you realize that everything is scattered. It's not looking nice at all. Like so that's actually what happens. That's why for every web design, always make sure that you're having a desktop version and a mobile responsive version. So so Elizabeth, is that clear now?
Yes, yes, it's clear. Thank you.
Okay. So I think we can move on. I don't think anyone else has a question. I asked a question. I said, what stood out to you most, like in everything that we've treated so far, like today? What was that one thing that stood out to you before we move on? That we're almost done with tonight's class. You guys should unmute one after that, and just one
hello,
thing that stood out. Yeah, Jeremiah.
hello. Okay.
Yes, I can hear
One thing
you.
that stood out for me was you talked about the heretics. Okay, man. You also talked about the alignment.
Yeah,
The alignment. You talk about the central alignment, and you're also explaining the left and the right. You talked about, yes. You also mentioned something about the ratio, the 60-30. I
yeah.
think that should have been more among everyone. So you talked about the
All right.
background. Most times takes up 60%. That is the
Mm-hmm.
background color. Or
Mm-hmm.
yes, and you said the 30% secondary color.
Mm-hmm.
And also, most times when designing, then there's usually you need to make constructs. And also, all of these in design, you mentioned the theme and the tone. You said all of this was
Yeah.
just is to make it easier for the user to be able to interact well with the
All right. Thank you for
that's
that
all, man.
reminder.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. So, Ola Elizabeth, who wants to go next?
All right, Ma, I want to go next. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I can
Okay,
hear you
so what
clearly.
stood out? Okay, what stood out for me is typography because I was literally shocked that what I've been saying. I don't know. I've been saying the wrong thing. So we're talking about typeface. And the name is like the
Yeah.
typeface, like something like Arial, Montana,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
Times New Poppins is the typeface. So the fonts is the name under the typeface, like Poppins
Yeah.
Bold, Poppins Italic, Poppins
Yeah.
Medium,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
just create contrast. That was what stood out for me
Okay.
today.
All right. That's beautiful. Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, Ola, you're next.
Okay, ma. Okay, for me, what's that for me was the arrangement of the text, like the layout, the center, the right and left layout. Then we talk about the color ratio, that's the 60-30, then 10 ratio. And also there's one that you just mentioned, but I could not really get the name, probably because of my network. But based on what you said is the ability for users to have easy access to that particular design without struggling with it, like easy access to be able to like
Yeah.
interact with it. I've forgotten the name or I didn't get the name very well, probably because of my network.
I think intuitiveness, intuitive,
Yes, yes, yes.
intuitive. But let me write it out. Let me write it in the chat.
Okay, ma.
All right. So thank you for that, Ola. That is it, intuitive. Okay, so let's continue. Mm, okay. So I think so. Let's just continue. So now we're in the best practices. So user testing, iterative design, simplicity, and emotional design. So what this means are that when you're creating a design, you have to pay attention to all these things. It's like a kind of check. So like when you're done with your design, you need to like go back. Okay, have I done all these things? The first one is user testing. Always make sure that you have tested your design with actual users. You've shown it to someone. You've made them, okay, try and use this, can try and do this with my design. We have tools for it whereby you can test your 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 Figma designs. You can actually test it as if they are using it. That's also the point of prototyping. You prototype so that you'll be able to test, right? So that somebody will be able to use it and actually navigate through as if they were using the actual app. So you do testing to check for issues and also to gather feedback that you can either use for improvement or use to come up with new ideas. Yeah. So that's the first one. That's user testing. Then the second one is iterative design. Iterative means continuous, like continuous. So like design is like a cycle. It's like a cycle. You don't just design once and abandon it. When you design, you do your testing, you get feedback, and then you use that feedback to improve. And you keep on, it's like a continuous loop of testing, feedback, and improvements. Testing, feedback, improvement, testing, feedback. So that's what design is. So when you're done and you've tested, you look at, you check, oh, based on the feedback from this testing, do I need to improve? And then you do so. Or new ideas might come up, and then you realize that, oh, we need to add this feature, we need to add this, we need to improve this. This would make it more usable, this would make it more aesthetic, and then you continually improve. Then also simplicity. Simplicity is also minimalism, like you're keeping the user interface simple, making it very uncluttered and as uncomplex, as simple as possible. You're removing all unnecessary complexity, anything that is not necessary, that is not adding value, like adding real value to your design. Please take it out, make sure it's out. Like that's the check. You look at, you do a kind of audit of your design. Okay, is there anything that is not supposed to be here? Even while you're designing, what is supposed to be here, what's supposed to be here? And if you feel something that is just not just useless, like any element that is useless in your design, you take it out. You're making your design as simple as possible. Simplicity does not mean easy. Just because the design is simple doesn't mean it's easy to create. In fact, most simple designs, there's actually so much thought put into it to actually create that simplicity. Because if it was just left to us, humans are full of ideas, right? We have so many things we want to put in a place, and we pack so many things in one place. Even if you don't even have so many ideas, you know that you can have the same content in two different designs. Two people will design the same thing with the same piece of information, the same text, the same everything, except maybe different layouts, different structure, different colors. And one will look simple while the other would look cluttered. I think we spoke about, so there's a way you can use spacing very well, that your design would actually look very simple, even though simplicity like that. Always consider the emotional impact that your design will have on whoever is using your design. You always want to trigger a positive emotion. You only want to create a good user experience for your user. So always bear that in mind when you're designing. Even after you're designing, ask yourself, okay, is this giving a good user experience? My whole design, would this give a good user experience to the user? Okay, so these are what you need to ask. Then lastly, we're going to look at different tools and resources, just a few, like a little number of them. So looking at design software, I'm sure we're all familiar with Figma, and I think I mentioned Adobe XD and Sketch in the previous class. But Figma is what we're going to be using for our for our class. And in the next class, we're actually going to use Figma and create. If you haven't created an account, you create one in the class, and we'll use Figma. So Adobe and Sketch are also like Figma, but they are paid tools, right? And I think Sketch is only for Apple products. Yeah. Then we have Protopie. Protopie is for prototyping. It's a prototyping tool. Then we have Miro, which is a collaboration tool or a wireframing tool also. Then we have Framer. Framer is not exactly a design tool, but it's used for no-code development. Yeah, it's used for no-code development. So in essence, it's actually a design tool because it kind of looks like Figma, like the way like you are. It's also like looks like Figma. Then other online resources. These are places where you can subscribe to their newsletters, where you can search for inspiration. We have UX Planet. Yeah, they have good UX letters. You can search them up, UX Planet. We have Smashing Magazine. We have awards. Awards, these are where you can use awards for inspiration actually. They publish regularly, really, really, nice and creative and like creative sites. Then we have Dribble. Dribble, I'm sure we're all aware of Dribble. It's just like a repository of designs. Yeah. And we have Mobbing. Mobbing actually stores screenshots of of real products, apps, websites. So you can go there. Let's say you want, instead of having to download an app, you can just go there and get the screenshot. It's a paid app, but the thing is that you can actually download a number of screens. Yeah, and sometimes that might be all you need. Then we have Landing Folio. It's just for landing pages. Say you're creating a landing page and you need inspiration, you can go to Landing Folio. Yeah. So I think we've come to the end of today's class. Yeah. So I'll leave. Any more questions? Yeah, basically just questions or contributions. Do you have any questions? Does anyone have any questions before we end the class?
I have a question, ma.
Okay, please go ahead.
Stigma, like, are we to use the web version or the downloaded version? Because I've been hearing that one can use the downloaded one without data, and the one or the web version that one with data. So which one is the best
I have
for
never
this class?
used the downloaded version. I've actually never used that. I do most of my work
Okay.
on the web. Yeah. Even if you can even use the web version without data, it's just that you won't be able to use things like plugins. Yeah. And then you would need to
Okay.
use data to actually save your work, or else you could use it. But I
Ah,
actually prefer the web. Yeah. I can open Figma anywhere on any device anywhere. I don't have to start installing Figma. Yeah. So you can use the web, you can use the desktop version. Some people would prefer, it's actually based on preference. Some people would prefer the desktop, but I actually use a lot of web apps. Yes, I actually use a lot of web everything. But that's just me. But you could install the web app. Yeah. If you're having any difficulty, you can try and do that before the class, or we didn't cover that in class. But if you try and do it before the class and you're having any difficulty, just reach out on the group. Yeah. And I think I should be able to offer some assistance or another. So is that all
mm,
right to use?
yes, yes, ma.
All right. So for your task, I'm thinking. So we looked at design principles. Okay. I think I'll just send you the task here on the group later tonight, because I haven't actually decided on what you guys should do. So just look out for your task here tonight or tomorrow. Yeah. All right. So I think we're at the end of the class. Um I hope we'll have good weekends, and I hope you enjoyed today's class. Yeah. Okay. So bye everyone. Good night everyone.
All right, man. Thank you very much, Ma. Goodbye.
All right, bye.